Chapter 3, Section 7 is dealing with inequalities and absolute values. So our objective is to solve equations and inequalities with absolute value. If you forgot about absolute value value is this, little vertical lines, and what that means is the distance from this number to 0. How far is this number? So the distance of -7 to 0 is 7. And the distance from 7 to 7, or 7 to 0 is 7. So that's what absolute value is, just a little reminder of that. So when we're solving these, there are some special things that happen, and so we will walk you through those. So when you're dealing with an equation dealing with absolute value, what we do is we treat it the same until we get the absolute value part alone. So we still subtract 2 from both sides. We have the absolute value of x equals 7. Now, once we get to this point, we can remove the absolute value, but what we have to do is give this 7, leave it the same, and give it the opposite value. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to stick with whatever value this is, as well as give it the opposite value. So if this was -7, it would have stayed -7. Sorry, that would have been a no solution. So never mind about that part. Okay. So x is equal to 7, or x is equal to -7. It's both. Okay. So some equations involve something like this. You can write this key concept down, but I believe that this is a little bit easier to understand it this way. So let's take this, for example. What you have to do is, whenever you get it down to, just the absolute value symbols, again, you set it equal to the value here as well as its opposite. So let's do this. We have absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 13. So we have to rewrite this. We get rid of the absolute value and we leave it 13. We also get rid of the absolute value and rewrite it with -13. And then we solve both. At 5, at 2x equals 18. And in this case, x equals 9 when you divide by 2. Over here, at 5, we got 2x equals -13 plus 5 is -8. Divide by 2. And x will equal -4. So x will equal 9, or x can equal -4. So let's do one of these. So this is basically, they come up with an equation for you, an absolute value equation, and then they say, at what times is she 40 feet from you? So starting 100 feet away, here's 100 feet, minus your friend skates at 20 feet per second. So if it's been 3 seconds, that's 100 minus 20 times 3, 100 minus 60, means they're 40 feet away. At what times is she 40 feet away? So I kind of gave away one of them on accident. But let's solve that. So for D, we're going to replace that with 40 is the absolute value of 100 minus 20t. Okay? So we get rid of the absolute value, so we are left with 40 equals 100 minus 220t, and we have -40 equals 100 minus 20t. And we solve for both. So we're going to subtract 100 from both sides. That leaves us with -60 equals -20t. Divide by -20, and you are left with t equals 3. Over here, we subtract 100 again. We are left with -140, equals -20t. Divide by -20, and t is equal to 7. So this friend of yours would be 40 feet from you either after 3 seconds or 7 seconds, and that's for, that's because, okay, here's your friend, right? And you start way over here, which is 100 feet away. When you get right here, this distance is 40 feet to your friend. And if you keep skating, this distance is 40 feet. So this is the 3-second mark, this is the 7-second mark. What if you get something like this, where you have a little bit extra on the outside? Again, treat it just normal. Okay, so we have 3 times absolute value of 2z plus 9. First thing we're going to do is subtract 12. Then we have 3 times the absolute value of 2z plus 9 equals negative 2. And then we are going to divide by 3. And we have the absolute value of 2z plus 9 equals negative 2/3. Oops, forgot that. Now, if we get to a part like this, where you have the absolute value equals something negative, this right here is a no solution. The reason is you cannot have absolute value equal to a negative. So if you ever get that, that is no solution. All right. Solving these things. We're going to hop over one. When we get to an inequality, what we do here, and again, if you want to kind of solve or check out this little graph, you sure can do that. I would rather just take you to an example. When we get to one of these with an inequality, we basically do the same thing as before. We take out the absolute value and we write it as normal, and then we write it again with a negative. However, basically what we did is we changed the symbol. We changed it from a positive to a negative over here. And if you remember, whenever we do that with inequalities, we have to change the inequality as well. And then we solve both. So divide by 8. N is greater than or equal to 3. And over here, divide by 8. This is n is less than or equal to negative 3. So we have n is greater than or equal to 3, and n is less than or equal to negative 3. So the big difference is, when you're dealing with inequalities, it's still the same rule. You take away the absolute value, and you change. You basically take the inverse of whatever numbers here, but you also have to change your inequality sign. Okay, let's try this again. What are the solutions to this? So again, we take off the absolute value symbols and leave it as is. And then we also rewrite it, but change this to negative 5. And since we did that, we have to switch our symbols. Solve both. And in this case, x is greater than or equal to 1/2. And over here, we get negative 9x. Sorry, divide by 2. X is less than or equal to negative 9/2. So we have x less than or equal to negative 9/2, and x greater than or equal to 1/2. Okay, we're going to leave that right there. So rewatch this if you need to. I know it goes fast. I try to do that to keep your videos under 10 minutes. So rewatch some of it if you need to with some tips.